So guys, I thought in honor of F9, wouldn't it be fun to go ahead and recite some of these amazing lines in this franchise from the first film to the 9th film? Let's give it a shot. No, Monica! That was Jaw. Ejectocito, cuz. Wabaki. Yeah. Yeah, it's forgettable. This just went from Mission Impossible to Mission Freaking Sanity. Well, you know what they say, Stasiak. If you want the career-changing big fish, you gotta be willing to put on the big boy panties and sail out to the deep water. Brian, what is you doing? Nah, Furious 7 is too emotional. We'll skip over the Fate. You know, another forgettable one. Alrighty, well, you know, that was fun, guys. But let's get into F9, and I'll talk about whether or not this is as memorable as the other films we talked about, or not. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today we're talking about one of my most anticipated movies of the year, F9. A big thank you to Universal Pictures for giving me the chance to watch this in a movie theater, and yes, I'll say it right off the bat, you guys need to watch this on the biggest screen possible because I don't think I would have gotten the same experience at home. F9 is directed by Justin Lin, and this is the 5th film in the franchise that he's directed, and it's starring Vin Diesel, John Cena, Michelle Rodriguez, Jordana Brewster, Ludacris, Tyrese, and yes, Nathalie, Emmanuel. And there are so many other actors and actresses in here that will pop up, and I'm excited for you to see their faces. But if you don't know too much about the story, oh, well, you should probably watch the other 8 movies, because, guys, if you haven't seen a Fast and Furious movie, I think you might be a little confused. But F9 is all about Dom and his brother Jacob as he attempts to steal a super weapon, so now it's up to the Fast family to put a stop to Jacob before it's too late. And yes, I promise, there are a lot of explosions. But guys, before we get into my review, and I'll tell you whether or not it was worth my time, or if it was a disappointing entry into the Fast franchise. If it is your first time here at the channel, guys, welcome to The Real James, where we talk about movies like this early all the time. So if you don't want to miss out, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell, guys, and go ahead and get loud in the comments and let me know what you guys thought of this movie when you see it, or if you've already seen it. Did it rise and meet your expectations, or were you a little underwhelmed? And also hit that big thumbs up button if you're a fan of the Fast saga. It's about family. So let me provide a little bit of context before I get into what I liked about F9. I did not like The Fate of the Furious too much. It's a very okay action movie, but as an installment into the franchise, I didn't think it was that impactful. I don't really feel like I had much staying power, and I don't like where they took the story. And even though I love Charlize Theron, I don't think that Cypher is a good antagonist because of the way they write her character. She can be good, but I don't think they used her well in The Fate of the Furious, and that was the first movie of the franchise where I thought, oh boy, it might be running out of steam. But I'm happy to report, guys, that when I left F9, I did not have that feeling, and that starts with the fact that this story is unlike any of the other plots we've seen in the Fast saga. And that's because there's a heavy emphasis on our leader, Dom, and how his origin story and his life came to be. So we never really got to see what happened at the track, right, in the Fast and the Furious, but here in F9, Justin Lin takes the time to really craft an origin tale for Dominic Toretto. And during one of the most tragic events of his life, witnessing his father's death, guess who was right around the corner? Jacob, played by John Cena. And for the most part, guys, I really enjoyed how they executed the origin story for Dom and Jacob. More so Dom, because Jacob comes in and out, but when you see this, you'll understand why they went in this direction, because they do need to set up this grand finale with Fast 10 and Fast 11. I also love the parallels between Dom and his brother Jacob, and really this is a mature turn for the franchise, and I'm glad it was explored in F9. But if you're coming to these movies now just for the big action set pieces and all the craziness that was established from Fast and Furious 6 onward, I think you'll still enjoy it, because man, the action was big here from the beginning to the end. That bridge sequence in the beginning of the film was incredible, and I loved everything that they did as well with the magnets. You saw it in the trailer, if you've seen the trailers, where the cars use magnets to attract and to push away different objects, and it's really creative in how they used it, especially at the end, and the practical effects. It was wonderfully directed and also acted. And when it comes to the franchise as a whole, you're gonna either love it or hate it by this point, but in F9 there were a lot of those what the heck moments for me, and I couldn't believe they took this film to another stratosphere, literally. But the one thing that I love about Justin Lin, and the reason why I think he is the golden child of the Fast saga, is the way he films these sequences and the amount of practical effects, again, that he uses in these moments. It adds a different layer of realism, and I did notice more CGI here than I did in The Fate of the Furious, but there were some incredible stunts that well, it really called for CGI, so it's warranted, it's justified, and I really do love the epic scale of this film. And it only helps that I saw it on the big screen with a lot of noise, and there was an amazing chemistry among the core cast within the film too. And it helps that F9 took a very centered approach to family compared to the Fate of the Furious, where I didn't feel like the movie had too much of those family values, especially with Dom turning against the Fast family. It didn't work for me, but here they gave some warranted attention to most of the members of the Fast family. And that brings me to my next positive, guys. Because they focused on our core cast so much, I noticed this natural back and forth dialogue with one another that again made for some compelling moments. Without spoiling anything, I really felt locked in when Sung Kang, who plays Han, explained exactly how he's still alive. Yes, there was a lot of dancing with the plot and the storylines. They had to write in cursive in some moments where, man, if you missed a letter or a word, you would be totally thrown off. But I was pretty much in my seat, completely focused on what Sung Kang was saying. And for fans of the franchise who have gone back and rewatched these movies multiple times, there are cool Easter eggs in these flashback moments with Dom's origin story that are really gonna make you smile. Honestly, I'm here for all the Easter eggs because there were some lines in this film where I thought, oh my gosh, they did that in the first movie, or they said that in Tokyo Drift, and I was just so happy. I felt like a kid in a candy store in those moments. But that's not even the best thing about this movie, guys. There's a decision that Justin Lin made here to focus a lot more on characters that would otherwise be pushed to the side or reduced to comic relief. I love the spotlight that they gave to Tyrese and Ludacris. I mean, yes, Roman and Tej are comic relief, and they're needed in some moments because that entire scene in the third act with both of them together would not have worked without them. However, they were given much more of a concrete storyline here, especially with Ramsey, who's played by Nathalie Emmanuel. I liked all three of them together, but Roman and Tej, they just got more solo action moments that made me smile as a fan because I was waiting for that. I was so tired of people reducing them to just comedic relief. They're pretty important characters to this family and to this franchise too. And as an OG fan of the Fast and the Furious, I really appreciated Mia, who's played by Jordana Brewster, getting more time to kick butt and ask questions later. There are these moments with her and Letty, who's of course played by Michelle Rodriguez, where they're facing off against these enemies, and it just flowed effortlessly. The hand-to-hand combat and the choreography was great. I loved all of the moments where we saw them together. That's the thing, we didn't get that a lot in this franchise, and a buddy of mine actually told me about that too. And it's true, we don't get too much of Mia doing a lot of the action-oriented stuff, but to me, she's the glue of the group. And my favorite moments in the movie, other than what we've already talked about, would have to be anything involving Tokyo, Tokyo Drift references, and Han. Yes guys, the big action set pieces are cool, but I loved when we went to Tokyo and we got a chance to really kind of call back to that third film, which I will forever defend. I love that movie, guys, okay? I've seen it almost 20 times. I'm serious. So when Han gets reintroduced into the franchise and we get a little bit more of his backstory, it did put a smile on my face. And by the end credits, because guys, yes, you should sit through, there's a mid-credits scene, I threw my hands up and said, this is off-the-wall fun, I enjoy it, I like it, but I don't love it, because of some shortcomings and negatives that I just can't overlook. So guys, let's talk about what didn't work for me in F9. Now guys, as a Fast and Furious movie, it's not perfect, and honestly, there's a lot wrong with some of our actors. And that starts with John Cena. He plays Jacob, like I mentioned earlier, and every moment with him was stiff, lacking a lot of charisma and character, and every time he was with Dom, it actually didn't feel natural. Now I know he's not an actor by trade, so I was willing to cut him some slack, but I really couldn't buy anything he said and did in this movie. He's also one of the few reasons why the momentum in this movie was kind of stopped in its tracks. It's between him and Charlize Theron. Even though I love her, the character of Cypher here just really didn't work for me. And I bring up this next point with love. I do think that we could have done without John Cena in this movie. But hey, I guess his name attracts moviegoers because people in our theater were cheering for him, so go figure. And don't worry guys, we will mention the character Otto in this film. So let's move on to the next thing outside of the acting, which is the humor. The Fast franchise has become known for some silly jokes, and jokes that work largely because of Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris. But in this movie, it was a little hit and miss for me. Tej and Roman nailed it here, but everyone else did not. There are far too many moments in F9 where I felt the jokes were dry and running on for far too long. A prime example is with this character, Otto, who is the right-hand man to John Cena's character. He finances this espionage subplot that the movie dives into, and the actor's name is Thu Ørsted Rasmussen, I hope I got that right. But there is this moment between Otto and Cypher where they have a joke about Star Wars, but they continue to use this weird analogy comparing Otto to Yoda, and then there's a Darth Vader and there's a Luke. It's weird. I don't know, guys. I didn't care for it at all. And to be honest with you, I was saying to myself, please stop. Just cut it out. But it went on for another minute. And I don't know, guys. The movie needs to really know where to pull back. And it didn't do that here. And then there were a lot of other examples here, guys, where I didn't feel like the humor was executed well. And unfortunately, it served more as a distraction than something that aided the film. And when it comes to Dom's origin story here, it is a blessing and a curse for F9. While I love Justin Lin taking the film in this direction, the movie was a little over-reliant on Dom's origin story to the point where it felt like they over-explained his past for a single film. There's this scene where Dom has another flashback, a vision, I would say, and it just did not work for me, guys. If anything, it did feel like in that moment that the origin story maybe needed to be worked in a little bit differently or save some of that for an origin movie. But for a film where the main plot is about Dom and Jacob and this, I don't know, thing it's called Eris, it's a super weapon, I do think you need to focus on that a little bit more than you do on the origin story, because by the end of the film I was getting a little exhausted of seeing Dom revisit his past. And the last negative we'll talk about here, guys, is my reason for this movie not feeling as impactful. And I would have to say that's because the stakes never felt so real. In Fast 5, 6, and 7, the reason that those films were so good back to back to back is because there was something there for the Fast family to lose. The plot, yes, was always protecting our main characters, but I still felt like at any given moment somebody could be taken away from the group. And in Fate of the Furious and now in F9, the stakes were never there for me, and if anything, the movie just never gave me a oh my gosh kind of moment. Even as Cypher was being mischievous, even though there were some surprises here that I didn't expect, for the most part, those trailers ruined everything. And that's something that I think is a separate discussion, but when I go into F10 and F11, I don't think I'm going to watch a single trailer, because in F9, they oversold this movie. I was already going to be in my seat, but they showed everything in the film, every big moment in the movie, in the trailers, and that's disappointing to me. But guys, with all those negatives and the positives, I would say F9 is a low tier Fast and Furious movie. Now that makes it sound a lot worse than it really is, but compared to the other 8 films in the franchise, I do think that there are a handful that are clearly head and shoulders above F9. Do I like a lot of the story turns here in F9? Absolutely. And for a hardcore fan of the Fast saga, I enjoyed a lot of the Easter eggs, I enjoyed the back and forth, and the focus on family. But there's enough in this film that works against it for it to not be one of the best installments in the franchise. Do we get big explosions? Absolutely. Does the film take us to new heights? Yes. Is the core centric focus family? Yes. And that is enough for me, but it's not enough to make it a great film, because like I mentioned, the stakes were never there. The family aspect is actually a good thing and a bad thing in this movie, because it's just relying too much on those flashbacks, and then you have to factor in the actual story, Dom and his brother, and there were a lot of missteps, I think, along the way, and that's due in large part to John Cena just not being able to nail it in the acting department. So if you're going into this film expecting something better than Fate of the Furious, I think you get that here, but if you're expecting one of the best films in the franchise, F9 is not it. Now, of course, you're gonna watch this anyway, but I need to know, guys, whether I'm off base or if you agree with me, because again, this movie isn't a movie I hate. I like this film, it's enjoyable, but again, I can't tell you that I'm gonna be rushing to buy it on Blu-ray and watch it 5 times like I did with all the other installments. F9, it works for what it's trying to aim for, but then it tries to get a little overambitious in the end. So guys, there you have it. That's my real review of F9. Again, mid to low tier kind of Fast and Furious movie, so it's enjoyable. It's just not one of the better installments in the franchise, but I gotta know what you guys have to say about it. Go ahead and drop your ranking down below in the comments. Let me know which film is your most or your least favorite of the franchise. And hey, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and hit the big thumbs up button if you're a big fan of the Toretto family. I am. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Oh, I can't say that. That's Paul Walker's line, not mine. Yeah.